Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Do not forget that I am doing a giveaway for this X-Men number 221 at 500 subscribers. Holy smokes, I can't believe I can say that I could possibly potentially hit 500 subscribers eventually. We just passed 200, and thank you all so much. I appreciate it. If you guys like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to continue to watch videos like this and you want to be updated on when I release videos. Hit that bell icon and let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of the video. In this one, we're doing the hot 10 runners up of the week. So these are definitely comic books that have had big sales and big increases in sales, but they just weren't big enough to be on the 10 top hottest. So let's get into this one, you guys. We have Action Comics number 80, and this is the first cover appearance and second appearance of Mr. Mxyzptlk. And that's a really hard name to try to say. But a 3.0 last sold in 2005 for $150, and that's actually up 233%, now selling for $500. So again, a comic that hasn't sold for a while, so it's kind of warranted to see an increase, but it's still great to see a price increase. Now, this is an early Action Comics, and it's something that's a really cool comic. It's nothing that I'm really looking at investing in, so invest in it if you want. Those earlier issues are definitely just great for the long-term kind of buy. So if you want to buy something for a long-term, it could be a great issue to own, obviously, because it's up 233%. But it's been a long time, 17 years since that comic sold. So that's quite a bit of time. Next up, we have Tales of Suspense number 31, and that's the first actually prototype of Doctor Doom. And this is a really cool issue. It's a really cool cover, and it's really interesting to see that there was kind of a prototype for Doctor Doom. Now, of course, the Fantastic Four are coming, so Doctor Doom anything is just up a little right now, just in general. And I think that that's going to stay up in value no matter what. And this could be a really cool comic to own, especially because it's just an early issue, and it's just a really cool comic. A 4.5 last sold in 2019 for $209, and now that's up 113%, now going for $445. So 113% increase in 3 years. That's I'd say that's pretty good, a pretty good investment. This is just a really cool issue, so it's definitely something that, if you like Doctor Doom, this is actually a really cool one, but it's really not Doctor Doom. It's just like a concept kind of for Doctor Doom, but it's still a really cool early issue. Next up, we have Werewolf by Night number 1, and this is Werewolf by Night's first solo series, and it's continued from Marvel Spotlight number 4, of course. A 9.6 in 2019 last sold for $1,795, and that's actually up 81%, now selling for $3,250. So that's a pretty good increase for something so valuable, and this is just a really cool iconic cover, and it's a great series to be into. We had 8.5 last sell in December for $580, and that's actually up 38% now selling for $800. So it's showing that this is actually something that's a big increase, and that's recently. So this could be a good comic to be into. Again, it's a great cover, a great ongoing series. So I would look into it if I could find it for a deal, but I'm not going to be actively looking for it. So do with it what you will, but that's just what I'm going to be doing. Next up, we have Crime Suspense Stories number 18, and this is just one of those cover issues that's a great cover. It's an early comic, and yeah, it's just a great comic. An 8.5 last sold in 2020 for $500, and now that's up 80%, going for $900. So that's a pretty good increase, and these are just comic books that people are into. They're always into like that, those horror comics, and I can totally understand why. Those are really cool comics. It's not something that I would be invested in, but for a long-term investment, they're great comics to be into, those horror comics. So especially those great cover arts, people love them. So that's definitely something that'd be really cool to be into. And for a long-term, maybe I'll own one day, but it's just not something that I'm currently looking into, but they are really cool comics. Whew, this is a big sale. Next up, we have Strange Tales number 110. And of course, this is the first appearance of Doctor Strange. It's also the first appearance of the Ancient One. It's the first appearance of Wong, and it's the first appearance of Nightmare. So this one has a lot of things going for this issue. And man, was this a mega sale. We had a 9.0 last sell in 2014 for $23,500, and that's actually up 76% this week, now selling for $41,399. Whoo, that's a big issue. This comic right now I would not be buying because, Doctor Strange is coming out soon. So this is just a hot comic right now. So I would hold off on getting this until, in between movies. That's when you'll get it the cheapest. But I don't see Doctor Strange really going anywhere for a long time. And Doctor Strange is a really cool character. So even if something did happen, I don't think that is really going to tank that much. Next up, we have Tales from the Crypt number 44. And this is, again, one of those cool horror covers. And there's a guillotine on the cover in action. So, oh, man, just one of those cool, early, gruesome, horror covers. And they are really cool comics. But we had a 5.5 last sell in 2018 for $466. And now that's up 27%, going for $590. So a pretty good increase in sales. And again, something like this would be a great long-term investment just to hold on to. I don't see anything horror going away because people love that kind of stuff. And I just think they're great comics to be into. We also had a 5.0 in 2019 sell for $321. And that's actually up 71%, now selling for $550. So that kind of goes to show that, yeah, any one of them are going to be increasing. Again, not a comic that I'm looking at buying, but if a good price one came up, yeah, I'd buy it, and I just hold on to it for a long time because they're just going to always increase in value. So, hey, it's a great investment in my opinion. Next up, we have Strange Tales number 89. First appearance of Fin Fang Foom, and this is just a great issue. It's also the first appearance of Dr. Chan Lucho. So, this is just a great issue. This comic is pretty expensive. It's a great coverage, a great early issue. A 1.5 last sold in November for $480. And now that's up 71%, going for $820. So that's a huge increase in a very short amount of time. So this could be a comic worth looking into, but the price of it has just been high, and it's been high for a long time. But who knows? This comic could just continue to go up and up. Those early first appearances just tend to do really well, and they tend to retain their value, especially if there's issues that, they're hard to find sometimes. They're just going to maintain their value over time. So it's definitely a cool comic to be into. It's not something that I'm actively looking for, but it would be a cool one to own and have in the collection in a lower grade. Next up, this is a cool issue. We got Amazing Spider-Man number 33. And besides being an iconic cover, this is actually the debut of a new power for Spider-Man, and that's actually his incredible strength. So that's a pretty cool thing to, discover 33 issues into the series. But yeah, again, a really cool issue. We had a 4.5 in January sell for $245, and that's actually up 69% this week, now selling for $415. So again, that's actually a pretty good increase in sales, that's actually a pretty good increase in price in that short amount of time. And this is just a cool issue. It's one of those early Amazing Spider-Mans, and those are key, because those comics tend to just go up and up and up. This isn't like a crazy cool comic. It's still a really cool comic, so I'm not actually actively looking for it, but it's just a cool comic to own. If you guys want to own anything Amazing Spider-Man, this one would be a cool one to pick up. Next up, we have Tales of Suspense number 57. Of course, it's the first appearance of Hawkeye, and it's actually the third appearance of Black Widow. This is a really cool issue, and one that I have been looking for a while, but I'm really just trying to get a lower grade one, and I just haven't found the right one yet, but I think I will own this one day because it's a really cool issue. We had an 8.5 last sell in 2019 for $2,600, and now that's up 63%, selling for $4,250. So certainly a comic that's still increasing in value. We haven't seen Hawkeye go away yet. Who knows if that's really ever going to happen, and who knows how much this one will really go down, because this might be one of those blue chip comics that really never comes down in value. So this could be one that's always worth having an investment in. But again, it's something that I'm looking for, but in a lower grade, so that way I can just put it off and just hold on to. Next up, we have my favorite Green Lantern. We have Green Lantern number 87, the first appearance of the John Stewart Green Lantern. This is just a really cool issue, and I just always wish that they did a movie with him instead of that Ryan Reynolds one. but we had a 9.8 last sell in 2020 for $6,500. Now that's up 62%, going for $10,500. Holy smokes. That's a big comic, and that's a big sale. So that's a pretty good investment. This comic I have been looking for a while, and this is one that it's not big on my list of something to get, but it's still a really cool issue, and I really like that character. I just remember watching the Justice League when I was a kid with him, and I just always thought that he was the cooler Green Lantern compared to any other Green Lantern. So again, one that I'm not actively looking for, but I'm kind of keeping an eye out for, so I think this would be a cool issue to be into. Next up, we have Supernatural Thrillers number 5, and that's the first appearance of the Living Mummy, and this is just a cool comic cover, just one of those cool horror covers, and it's a pretty cool issue. It's not anything that I'm actively looking for or will be looking for, but it's still a really cool issue. A 7.0 last sold in February for $195, and that's already up 61%, now selling for $313. So something that could be on the move and could be something to look into if you guys like these kind of comics. But again, it's not something that I'm looking into being into right now, but still a pretty good increase in sale in a short amount of time. Next up, we have Defenders number 1. And of course, this is like, the first Defenders in their own series. And this is also the first appearance of Necrodamus, who is a sorcerer. And this is a cool issue. It's a cool cover. We had a 6.0 last sell in August for $120, and that's actually up 60%, now selling for $192. So that's a pretty good increase in sale and not that much amount of time. So this could be a comic worth looking into. It's not anything that I'm looking into, but this one could be on the rise. This is a cool issue, and you never know what they're going to do in the comic, and you never know what they're going to do in movies. So this comic could be a little bit of a sleeper on. Next up, we have an oldie. We have Daring Mystery Comics number 5. Those old comics, they like throwing mystery in there, and that kind of faded away over time. But this is the first appearance of Falcon, who was formerly Purple Mask. This is just a great old comic. It's definitely not one that I'm looking at purchasing right now because it's so expensive, but it's still a really cool Golden Age comic book and a really cool cover. We had a 3.5 last sell in 2020 for $3,153, and that's up 50% this week, now selling for $4,725. That's a pretty good increase in price over that amount of time, but again, these Golden Age covers and Golden Age comics are just gold. These are ones that I would just be holding on to for a long time if you guys were definitely looking at buying comics and then holding on to them. Next up, we have Fantastic Four Annual number 4, and this is the first Silver Age appearance of the Golden Age Human Torch. It's also the first appearance of Quasimodo, and the origin of Human Torch is also retold in this issue. We had an 8.0 last sell in 2019 for $177, and that's actually up 50% this week, now selling for $265. So for something like this, it's really not that much of an increase in 3 years. So this isn't a comic that I'm actively looking for or would suggest being into, but it's still a really cool comic and a cool cover. So, if you want to invest in it, go right ahead. If you like the comic, it's a cool cover. So it's definitely something cool to be into. Next up, we have Strange Tales number 111, and this is the second appearance of Doctor Strange. If you don't have the money to invest in Strange Tales number 110, this is a great alternative. This is also the first appearance of Baron Mordo, and it's also the first appearance of Asbestos Man. So this comic actually does have a lot of things going for it, so it's not cheap, but it's certainly not as expensive as Strange Tales number 110. We had a quick increase in value. We had a 9.0 sell last week for $3,209. Now that's up 50% already, selling for $4,800. So, man, that's a huge increase in a short amount of time. So somebody might have just gotten a deal on this one, and then somebody, may have overpaid a little bit, but this is a really cool comic, so it's definitely one that's cool to be into. But right now, this comic, of course, is going to be hot just because of everything going on with Doctor Strange. Next up, we have Incredible Hulk number 2, and I really like this issue. This is the second appearance of the Incredible Hulk, but it's also the first appearance of him as a green Incredible Hulk. It's so weird that the first issue he was gray, but this is him being green and the Hulk that we all know. A 6.5 last sold in 2020 for $3,400. Now that's up 48% this week, selling for $5,040. So that's a pretty good jump in price. And this is just a really cool comic, and one that I'm not actively looking for, but in the lower grades, you can get them for actually not too much. But this is a really cool issue and something that it would be a great investment for a long-term comic, to be honest. Next up, we have Fantastic Four Annual number 6. And now this is the first appearance of Franklin Richards, but it's also the first appearance of Annihilus. And this is a really great cover, and it's a really great issue. And people have been speculating for a long time that Annihilus is coming, but we still haven't seen him yet. So with the Fantastic Four coming, I feel like this comic could have a lot of room to grow, and Annihilus could be the villain in it. So this is a comic that I would definitely be buying right now. It's one that I own, so it's something that I'm into. And yeah, I think it's just a great issue, and it has a lot of room to grow. There's a lot of potential with this comic because people will be buying this one if we ever get any confirmation of him coming. Now, we had an 8.0 last sell in April for $1,400, and that's actually up 43% now, selling for $1,996 this week. So a pretty good increase in price and not that long. So again, people are still speculating on this comic, and I think it's a great issue to be into right now. Next up, we have a pretty cool early issue. This is Green Lantern number 1. This is the first appearance of Oa, and it's also the first appearance of Puppet Master, and it's the first appearance of Guardians of the Universe. This is a pretty cool comic, and it's a pretty early one, so it's definitely something that may be worth looking into. We had a 3.5 last sell in February for $1,020, and that's up 40% already this week, now selling for $1,425. So certainly not a cheap comic, but it's a really cool comic and a really cool cover. And who knows, we could definitely see any of those people, and this comic could really take off. But it's a cool early issue and something that, may be worth looking into. Next up, we have Fantastic Four Annual number 5. Again, another Fantastic Four Annual. And that's the first appearance of Psycho Man. And this is a pretty cool issue. We had a 5.5 last sell in June for $100. And that's actually up 37%, now selling for $137. So a little bit of an increase in price. But again, Fantastic Four are just cool issues to be into right now, just in case anything happens. Next up, we have X-Men number 5, and this is the third appearance of Magneto, the second appearance of Scarlet Witch, and the second appearance of Quicksilver. So this is a pretty good issue. However, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell how this issue is going to do because we've already had Scarlet Witch in the MCU for a while, and that movie's coming out recently with her and Doctor Strange, so it could come down a little after that. But I do think this is a really cool issue for second appearances and third appearances, so it might be one worth looking into, but it's not one that I'm actively looking for right now. But if a right price one came up, I would not mind being into this comic book right now. Next up, we have Incredible Hulk number 1, and this, of course, is the first appearance of the Incredible Hulk, and this is a really cool issue. This is also the first appearance of Betty Ross. It's the first appearance of Rick Jones, and it's also the first appearance of General Ross, Thunderbolt. Now, this is by no means a cheap comic, but I believe if you were investing for the long term, this would be one of those blue chip comics that will always have value and will always retain its value over any amount of time because this is a really cool early issue. Now, we had a 6.5 last sell in April for $55,200, and that's actually up 30% this week, now selling for $72,000. So again, not a cheap comic, but definitely one that if you're invested in, it's going to retain its value over time, in my opinion. Again, just my opinion. Next up, now with Fantastic Four, we're going to have big sales on Fantastic Four comics. This is a big one, though. We have Fantastic Four number 5, the first appearance of Doctor Doom. It's been hinted for a long time that Doctor Doom is coming, but this is just one of those blue chip comics that has always increased in value over time. Even when Doctor Doom wasn't done right, it was still an expensive comic. I think that's because it was scarce. It was a scarce comic, and because this is just a great, great issue. We had a 0.5 last sell in December for $4,050, and that's already up 28%, selling for $5,180. So this is not by any means a cheap comic, but holy smokes, the sales on this comic are huge. This one is worth a lot of money, and I don't think you're ever going to find really a deal on this comic, but if you wanted something to invest in for the long term, this is a great comic to be into. everybody's going to be speculating that we're going to see Doctor Doom at some point just because of Fantastic Four are coming. So they're always going to be expecting us to see him at some point. So this one is it's just a great comic to be into. I don't know how much it's going to increase in value when we do see him because it's already such an expensive comic, but we'll see how much it does if we ever do see Doctor Doom. Next up, we have Fantastic Four number 13, and this is the first appearance of the Watcher. But it's also the first appearance of Red Ghost and his Super Apes. So this is a pretty cool early Fantastic Four, and again, Fantastic Four are just great comics to be into. I guess we already had the Watcher in the animated series on Disney Plus, so you never know. We could see him in the Fantastic Four or in some other live adaptation. We had a 6.0 last sell in December for $1,350, and that's actually up 26% this week, now selling for $1,695. So certainly not a cheap comic, but it's a really cool comic. And again, you know, if you want to invest in something for like kind of a longer term to kind of hope that it pays off, I think this is a cool comic to be into. It's just those early Fantastic Four comics are just really cool comics. Next up, we have Fantastic Four number 10, and this is actually the third appearance of Doctor Doom. So a pretty cool issue. We had a 2.0 last sell in 2020 for $259, and that's actually up 20%. So not a lot, but now it's going for $310. But still, it's one of those cheaper Doctor Doom keys that it might be worth investing in because that could increase if we do see Doctor Doom. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget, doing this giveaway at 500 subscribers. Seriously, thank you all so much. I couldn't imagine being here, and I can't imagine being here without you guys now. Thank you for all the wonderful comments. I really do appreciate all of it, and thank you guys so much. And of course, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.